Set temperature 19.
Temperature set to 19 degrees.
Alright guys, I've just driven the new XC60 T8 Inscription Plus, and I have to say this, man, I think Volvo is on a constantly improvement process. They are literally on Kaizen. What that shows from a car maker is that every product that they are introducing now is not as if they plan 5-8 years ahead and then they slowly release things like how Volkswagen Group would do. No, they are operating at their very, very best. Because when you look at the XC90, just the cabin alone, you will see traditional aircon vents and then that beautiful interior. But in the S90, they introduced these beautiful aircon vents that is a patent belonging to Jonathan Disley, and then they license it from Jonathan Disley to use in their car. Jonathan Disley is their employee, but then they license it from him and then they use it in their car. Then when I was in the XC60, I noticed they even go one step further. They change this spine. This spine first debuted in this S90 or V90 that runs across here. What they integrated in the S90, in the XC60, was the spine with the inlays. So in the S90 and V90, you see the industry's first 3D inlay, where it's actually a block and you can feel the depth of the material, which shows that it's a real material at the first place, and it also gives a different dimension of touch sensation. And then in the XC60, they integrate this with the spine to have a horizontal instead of vertical inlay. That, I think, is also an industry first, and it looks beautiful. It just looks beautiful. So I think Volvo is job well done. Seriously, job well done. How they constantly improve the cars. And then the safety systems, they did not think that, oh, because the XC90 was a flagship, the T8 XC90 is a flagship, what the XC90 doesn't have, the XC60 shouldn't have. They did not plan that way. They developed, they tested, proven, engineered, and they introduced it in the XC60. So now the XC60 has a more advanced safety system than the XC90. It is constant improvement. That car is now the safest car in the world in terms of what it has in the car. And I have to applaud them, man. They are on fire. They are on fire. Now, not only their cars compared to segment, at least in Malaysia, in terms of pricing and what you get for the price. Look at the XC60 T8 Inscription Plus for 343,000 ringgit, which is the same price par as the GLC 250. You get 407 horsepower, which the GLC 250 only gets you 211 horsepower. And in terms of safety features, nobody can beat that car. Not even Rolls-Royce, not even Bentley or whatever. That car is the most advanced when it comes to active safety systems. And then there's the interior of the XC60, which is, like this one here, fantastic. Very, very well built. Okay, so one thing they did not do in the XC60, which they did in the S90, which is in terms of interior space, they outclassed the competition by far. So the S90 is way more spacious than the competition, but I think the XC60 only matches up to the likes of the GLC 250 or the X3 for that matter. So that's not a bad thing, but at least from a paper perspective, there's nothing that the car loses out. Now, when it comes to handling, the Spa platform is really, really, really good. The Spa platform's handling is direct, is dynamic. Only in terms of suspension calibration, it sort of loses out to BMWs. The new generation BMWs, their suspension is just sublime. All of their cars, 1 Series, 3 Series, 5 Series, 7 Series, they have amazing suspension. It's as if they snatch the engineers from Ford. So really kudos to Volvo. But the XC60 wasn't crashy at all. It's not crashy, but in terms of expansion joints, I can still feel a little bit of, you know, that little bit there. But I don't think that's a deal breaker at all. In terms of steering, it's not as direct as this one. This one was tuned to be super direct. The steering is so fast, so direct. There is zero play in the steering wheel. If you drive the 5 Series, right, when you're going slow speeds, there is a little bit of play to give you the sensation of comfort, you know, where everything is softened up, everything is smoothened out. But this guy doesn't. The V90 T6R, right, is very direct. It's almost like I'm driving a very big Mini Cooper in terms of how the steering responds. But as you go to high speed, those twisty roads, then you can feel that actually in terms of the chassis, it loses out to the 5 Series a bit. It does lose out, but it easily matches up to both the E-Class, and this is way better to drive than the Audi A6 or Lexus GS or the likes. So yeah, I think what Volvo is showing us today is within the same generation of products, the XC90 to the S90 to the XC60, they keep on improving. And I like what I see, because for a volume manufacturer, they haven't achieved the intended volume yet, right? Last year they sold 500 over 1,000 cars. They are about the size of the combined output of Land Rover and Jaguar, but they are still a distance away from the biggest boys, the BMW and Mercedes group, of which combined last year, both of them sold about 2.4 million cars. That makes them about 4 to 5 times the size of Volvo. But will Volvo reach 1 million units by year 2020? I think they can, with their new products, their new ideology in terms of interior design, exterior design, in terms of the architecture that they have, the engines that they have. All of these are very competent, and I think they are on a roll. They are on fire, and I'm happy to see a car maker putting 200% of their engineering muscle into every single product that they're doing. And this is great news. And another happy thing that all of us in motoring journalism that were happy is that, you know, back in 2012 when Volvo showed the concept, or was it 13? I forgot. And then they debuted the XC90 in 2014. All of us were a bit worried, because an all-new infotainment system, an all-new architecture, an all-new engine, all-new transmission, everything is new. That is, most of the time, that's when a car maker gets a lot of things wrong, when they introduce everything from the ground up as new. But we're happy that after 3 years, 4 years now, 2018 now, there are no big issues with the XC90 drivetrain. The only complaints that we hear globally is with regards to the infotainment screen, which programming can solve, which they have constantly solved it. And I'm happy to see this. We're happy to see car makers keep on improving and improving and improving. Yeah. So yeah, man, can't wait to see another challenger squeezing itself up to the ranks of the German trio, which has so far dominated the premium segment, with BMW at 2.4 million, Mercedes at 2.4 million, Audi at 2 million, and or was it 2.1 or 2? it was a letdown. I mean, Audi was a bit of a letdown over the past 7-8 years. They had such a great run 10 years ago, and then of course we all know what happened in the VAG group, the immense infighting that happened between the Martin Winterkorn camp and the Ferdinand Piach camp. That infighting really hurt the group and really hurt Audi, with the full change of management, you know, the diesel crisis and all that. I wouldn't call it a diesel scandal. I still maintain my argument that as long as you sell what you send to the lab, you are not cheating. Okay, that I still maintain that. That is my standing to this whole issue. Unfortunately, as you can see, and Audi also fired, or the guy was removed. Wolfgang Egger, the guy who was in charge of the design of the Q7 and all that. All the ugly cars came from him. And Mark Lichter, who is currently Audi's head of design, even though he showed a very promising concept, but unfortunately I don't see that translating into the new Audi A8. So far, the designs that came off from Audi, all the new cars, they are not good looking at all. None of them are good looking. None of them. And that is very disappointing, because back in 2005, 2006, when Walter De Silva was overseeing Audi's design, they made some of the world's best designs back then. You look at the Audi A5 now. It is already 10 years old. That car still is one of the prettiest coupe. You can, we have the C-Class Coupe, you have the 4 Series, but you park these 3 cars side by side, 10 years later, the original Audi A5, I don't mean the facelifted one, the original one will still look brilliant. And that's sad, looking at all the new Audi designs. The new A7 doesn't wow anybody. The new A8 is yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to see Volvo pushing up like this, and I hope more people see their ideology behind their products. The way this company thinks is very matured, very logical, and you feel the passion in their products. Yeah, that's what I want to see in this video. Cheers.